All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And yesterday, when attempting to record the lectures for chapters 2 and 3, and then the beginning of our test, I had nothing but problems when I tried to produce that lecture later. It was basically empty. So I've re-recorded the lecture for chapter 2, which, because somehow it stopped. It's in two parts, and I've got chapter 3, and now I'm redoing the quotes app that we're going to be working on for the test. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to start up Visual Studio. There it is. I'm going to do a new project, and since I already have a quotes, I'm going to do a quotes 2. All right, C#, Windows, and Web. I'll put MVC in up here. There's my model view controller for C#. I'm going to click Next. I am going to call this quotes, just call it quotes. In fact, I'll call it quotes 2. I'm going to put it in a folder that I've already created that's called quotes 2. And I'll just call my solution quotes 2 solution. Okay? And I'm going to click Next. I do want .NET 6 long-term support. I will set my authorization to individual accounts. I will keep the configure HTTPS uncheck, enable Docker, and the Linux do not use top-level statements is unchecked as well. Click Create. This should create the project for us. And there it is. Okay? And as always now, right out of the box, if I start it up and run it, not real much to look at, but you will notice again, got the name of the application, a home page, a privacy page, which goes here. There's home. I've got a register page and I've got a login page. So those have been, for lack of better words, this is all built in. All right, so I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to go back to the program. But before I do, I just want to mention again, if you go to Start, this is how my stuff is loaded. All right, so I've got a Microsoft SQL Server folder because I downloaded Microsoft SQL Server 2019. All right, and in there I've got all this stuff that you can see. SQL Server 2019 Configuration Manager, SQL Server 2019 Error and Usage Reporting, SQL Server 2019 Import and Export Data, 64-bit, and SQL Server 2019 Installation Center, 64-bit. All right. In addition, I have downloaded and have this thing that says Microsoft SQL Server Tools 18. And in there, I have Analysis Services Deployment Wizard 18, Database Engine Tuning Advisor 18, and finally, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio 18. Oh, and I guess I also have this SQL Server Profiler 18. All right, and my hope is that you have the same stuff downloaded in yours. All right, so I'm going to come in and run through the same steps I ran through yesterday. All right, and what I mean is I'm going to start by coming in here and under Views, under Home, I'm going to open up both the Index and the Privacy. It doesn't matter which one you do first, but I'll go to Index here. And as I mentioned in class yesterday, I don't know if I guess I don't have it available anymore, but I went out and got two URLs. The first is how about famous movie quotes? And I found the one for 100 classic ones from IMDb, top 100 greatest movie quotes of all times, the ultimate list. All right, and I'm going to copy that, and that URL will go right there. In addition, I also went out. In fact, let's put down the name of this as well. I didn't do this yesterday. You can put anything basically you want to or need to put in there. All right. So I've got, let me make this a little smaller. Top 100 greatest movie quotes of all time, and here's the URL. And here I'm going to put in privacy policy generator. And I'm going to Google that and bring up the same thing that I brought up yesterday. All right. There's all sorts of these that come up. Looking for the one that I did yesterday, but of course I can't find it. I think it was termify.io. So you can grab any one you want. I'll grab this one. And I only need up till the question mark there. So that one will be right here. So if you want to use the ones I used, there they are. And let's see, what was this one actually called? Let's look. I'm going to put termify, generate your privacy policy. Termify, oh, that was spelled right. Generate your privacy policy. Okay, so that's what I have in here. So I'm going to start by grabbing this. And I'm going to go into my index page. And in fact, I don't want to do that. Let's see what I've got in here. So this is top 100 greatest movie quotes of all time, the ultimate list. Okay, I'll break this up. That's fine. So information supplied from, okay, and over here I will put this, a little long for a link in my humble opinion. So the ultimate list, I'm going to move that so it's not in here. Let me cut this down and put it over 2 lines so you can see it. So this says information supplied from, so the hyperlink should be top 100 greatest movie quotes of all time. All right, so that's what it should say. And where the welcome is, I'm just going to put down movie quote application. All right, and I'm going to save this. So file, save all. And I'm going to run the program to see what I've changed. And you can see I still have, now I have movie quote application, information supplied from. Well, the problem, I did this yesterday, but I didn't do it now. This is going to go and overwrite the URL that's there. I don't like that. Well, that's interesting. I thought I put the URL in there, and evidently I did not. So let's put that URL in there, and let's also make sure we put a target equals underscore blank in there. So there is the URL, and we will say here target equals underscore blank so that it opens up in a new window. And I put tag it, so target. Let's see, make sure that we've got that working. So save all. I'm going to stop the run, start the run again. Movie quote application, information supplied from. There it is. It should open up now into a new link. It does. And there it is. Okay, so that part's working just fine. So I'll put in here file, save all, and for now at least I'm going to close that. And for the privacy page here, all right, rather than use this page here, I'm going to say you can generate your privacy policy at, and we'll put in here a href equals. Again, it doesn't like it. I'll have to manually change that in just a minute. And again, I'll want a target equals underscore blank. All right, so let's grab this one. That's the text I'll use. Termify generates your privacy policy. So that'll go here. Okay. Let's target. This will again become an A. We'll end it here. And we will need to end our, end our A. End it there. In fact, we'll put the period outside of the hyperlink. There we are. And for the URL, I'm just going to grab what I'd taken, which is this Termify. Okay. Making a little bit of headway here. I'll cut this down so it fits. Generate your privacy policy at. In fact, I've got the same thing in here twice. I'll just change this to privacy policy at. That looks good enough to me. All right, I can bring that down as well. There. So let's take a look at that. So again, file, let's stop the run and start the run again. But let's do a file save all first. It'll come up with the home page automatically. MovieQuote application, and we click privacy. There we go. Okay, so we've got that part of it done. All right, not real big. We just came in there and made a couple, fairly at least, superficial changes. So let's go into our models. All right, so I'm going to stop the run here, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go into the model folder, right mouse click on it, and I'm going to choose add class. Since I've been calling all of this stuff quote2, I'll call this quote2.cs, and we will put in here, now I can type in, the first one is public int ID get set, which is totally fine, totally legit. There is a shortcut when you're doing this that you type in the word prop, which is short for property, and you hit tab twice. So tab, and you can see what it put in. So again, I'll have to manually change that to ID. And I'm copying it in 4 times. The rest of these are all going to be strings. I'll change the names in just a moment. This is basically the database schema that's going to be generated for us momentarily. So the first one is called quote movie. So in other words, what movie did the quote come from? The second one will be called quote text, and that'll be the quote itself. And the third one will be called quote author. That's who wrote the quote. All right. In addition, we'll put in an empty constructor, so I can come in here and just type in public class, class quote2, come on, Jeff, quote2, paren, and then put in this. Okay, like that. That's totally fine. Okay, so I can do that. But you'll notice it's already giving me an error. It says member names cannot be the same name as their enclosed type. All right, so it doesn't like something. So let's let the system figure out that problem for us. So for a constructor, I can type in CTOR, and you see the IntelliSense has picked it up. Somehow, before I do this, I lost a curly brace. There. So CTOR, and hit tab twice. There you go. Now, the only reason it's doing this is basically it says non-nullable, etc. I can put some, I don't have anything to put in there right now. Now, I talked yesterday. What we're about to do is we're about to go in and do some work with what's called the entity framework. All right. The entity framework is an object relational mapper, or ORM. What this ORM does is it provides an object-oriented layer between the relational database that we're going to be working with here in SQL Server and the object-oriented language, really C#. All right, and we can do this without having to write a lot of queries. In fact, what you'll notice soon is a lot of this stuff is going to be written for us. What this does is it reduces this kind of boilerplate code that you have to write, and it speeds up production time. All right, so an ORM basically allows the .NET developer to work with a database using database objects. So these properties that you see right here are going to basically be what we use to work with our database. They're going to represent our database, for lack of words. The other thing it does is it eliminates the need for most of the data access code developers typically have to write. So some of the features of Entity Framework include that it works with a variety of databases, SQL Server being one of them. It works over a variety of platforms, Windows being one of them. It creates what's called an EDM, or entity data model, that's based on POCO, which is a plain old CLR object. And we did not look at this yesterday. But a POCO, it says POCO stands for plain old C# object, or plain old CLR object, depending on who you ask. If a framework or API states that it operates on POCOs, it means it allows you to define your object model idiomatically without having to make your objects inherit from different classes. So again, the thing is, it is saving you time, effort, and typing. All right, so there's a thing here. This is 12 years old, but what is Entity Framework with POCO? And in the answer that got checked, you can take a look at that. All right, okay, so let's continue on. A couple more features here, or a few more features. All right, the Entity Framework allows the use of link queries, and we looked at those back in the AWD1115 class. It allows for typical CRUD operations. Again, your create, update, read, and delete. It uses optimistic concurrency by default to prevent overwriting. Let's look at that one as well. So what is optimistic concurrency? All right. Now, you can read this yourselves, but what it's saying is the bottom sentence here is the most important one. It assumes that multiple transactions can complete without interfering with one another. Pretty much the opposite of optimistic concurrency is pessimistic concurrency. When you have that, you basically open up everything. And if I am updating a record and the person next to me is updating the same record, and I get done updating it, and I hit save. Then they get done updating it theirs, and they hit save. Last in wins. In other words, my changes won't be made. But typically what you have with optimistic concurrency is you have a locking model. You either lock the entire database, or you lock the table, or you lock the record. So you can't have this interference that they talk about in here. All right. The entity framework performs auto transaction management while querying and saving data. What transactions are when you want to do a bunch of CRUD operations as basically one single collective operation. All right, it allows for caching, and that can save a lot of time. When you cache, you can make, for example, you could cache a database, which would mean that especially if you're the only one using it, or if it's not used often, it'll take the database, make a copy of it, and pretty much save it inside of memory. And then if you need to refer to it again, it'll grab the cached copy, all right, and it'll work a lot faster. Now, there's more to it than that, of course. And finally, it allows for migrations, and you're going to see this in a minute. All right. Now, a couple things that we want to check on in here before we go through and do anything more. First is we want to look and make sure we've got a data folder, and we should. And in that data folder, we've got a file that's called application DB context. I'm going to copy that name because I'm going to use it in a minute. All right, but we need that file. We need that file in order to be able to do some of the work that we're going to want to do. All right. Also, we have this migration folder. And what's in here right now? The first migration, it's got all zeros, and it says create entity schema. All right. If I open that one up, I believe that what's in there is these are a bunch of tables and some schema that was set up for us, and it was set up for us. All right, it was set up for us based on the fact that we chose the under our authorization before, we chose the whatever that one was, whatever we call that. Let's see, I wrote it down, so hold on a sec, please. We set it to individual accounts. All right. Now, I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. Try. All right. Let's just close the whole data folder. How's that? But it's got the stuff in there that we need. That's the important thing. All right. That application dbcontext.cs file links the database server with the model classes. All right. It's needed in the data folder for dynamic page generation. All right. So I'm going to go now into, close a couple of these. There we go. I'm going to right mouse click on controllers, and I'm going to choose add controller. We did something similar to this the other day, but when we did it, we chose MVC controller empty. Now what we want is MVC controller, all right, using entity framework. That's going to end up writing for us a lot of our CRUD code. So I'm going to click add here, and you can see what comes up. All right, the first thing it asks for is a model. And I'm going to click this down arrow, and I'm going to choose quotes2 dot models. All right. Next, it asks for a data context class, and that's that application DB context I mentioned before. So we click the plus sign, but we've got to change this. We want the quotes2 dot data dot all right, like that. And then we want it to say that application DB context. So this should say quotes2 dot data dot application DB context. And I believe at least that it is case sensitive. It's going to create a quotes2 controller for us momentarily. So I click add here, and you will notice that we've got some options: generate views, reference script libraries, and use a layout page. Yeah, we want to have it generate views for us. Yes, we want it to be able to reference script libraries as needed. And if we have a layout page, yes, we want to be able to use that as well. All right, so with all this, we come in here and we click the add button. Now we should notice two things once this comes back. And it will. So the first thing to notice is we now have a new controller. We've got a quotes2 controller, and here it is. It's going to be able to handle for us a get operation to get everything, a get operation to get a certain ID, a get operation to allow us to create, a post to allow us to create, a get, all right, for editing, a post for editing, a get for deleting, and a post for deleting. All right. So we've got all that stuff in here right now. All right. That's the good thing. The other thing is, under our views, we also have a quotes2 folder there. And underneath there, notice what we have. Our create, our delete. So create to create something new, delete to delete something that exists, edit, which is like an update, an index file, and also a details file, which basically will show us everything. All right. Now, I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. I'm going to do a file save all. And I'm going to run the application again. All right. It doesn't look any different right now, but the good news is we haven't broken anything. All right. Now, what we want to be able to do is to get our quotes. Well, we don't even have those yet. But if I come over here, we now have a quotes. We have a quotes controller. But if I say /home /index, it's going to look exactly like it does now. But if I come through here, because that's what this is, and if I try to run the index page for /quotes /index, it says that it can't be found. We do not yet have our database set up. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do that right now. We're going to create what's called a migration. And what migrations do is they let a programmer change the data model and deploy the changes to production by updating the schema of the database. And you can do this without having to drop and then recreate the database. I already showed you the one migration we have. That was that 00001. We don't want that one. All right. We want to be able to do our own. So I'm going to close this. All right. And what I'd like you to do then is to turn on or enable the migration feature. The way that we do that is we click View up here, and we go down to Other Windows. All right. View in other windows. And then under other windows, we want to find the Package Manager console, which is right around a little more than halfway down. And click there. And that's going to bring up, it's a console, so it's going to bring up the equivalent of a command line right there. All right. So from this flashing cursor that you see, I want you to enter the command and put it like this: add migration. Now, a couple things about this before we hit the enter key. It is add hyphen migration, capital, oops, of course I screwed it up. ADD migration, capital A, little dd, hyphen migration, like it's one word. Once we hit enter, it's going to ask us for a name. That name that it's going to ask us for is going to be used over here. We're going to put initial setup. So we're going to get a new file that's going to get created that will look something like 2023 for the year, 01 for the month, 13 for the day, and then underscore, I think, initial setup .cs. So let's do that right now. So add migration, okay, and then you hit enter. Now it asks for a name, and with this name it must be in double quotes. And we will put in here, we'll run the two words together: initial setup, like that. All right. So we ran add migration, which asked us for a name, and we're naming this initial setup. And again, this must be in double quotes. Hit enter. It's going to go and do its thing. But what you're going to notice is there it is, 2023 01 13, and it's got another number on it. I don't know exactly what that is. And then initial setup.cs. All right, we're almost through with the migration process. All right, to activate this, we have to type in the following: update hyphen database, all in lowercase. Now, it's weird the way this is set up, with some stuff in uppercase, some stuff in lowercase, some stuff in double quotes, some stuff not in double quotes. The best thing I can tell you is I didn't write the software. All right, it's just that these are the rules that we have to follow. All right, and then when you do that, hit enter. You know, a lot of stuff is going to scroll down, I should say, around on the screen here. It's doing its thing. It's building and doing a lot of stuff in the background for us now. All right. Now, I'm going to keep this up in case I need it, but I'm going to knock it way down like that. All right. Now, what you should see when we look here and we bring this initial setup up, in fact, it is brought up right here. There's our ID that we created. There's our quote movie. There's our quote text. There's our quote author. And the ID is the primary key. All right. So it's got all this stuff set up for us. In addition, and I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to close this and close this. All right. I'm going to come in here and excuse me. I'm going to open up the SQL Server Object Explorer. How do I do that? View, SQL Server Object Explorer, right there. It's going to open it up in here. There it is. And I always forget which one of these this is at. So I've got 3 of them. You might have 1, you might have 2, you might have 3. But I'm going to open this one up and then open up databases. And let's see. The one I just created is right there. ASP.NET Quotes 2. All right there. And if I go to that and I go to tables, all right, one of the tables, the bottom one, is DBO Quotes 2. If I double click on that, you can see what it built. Take a second. All right. But what did it build? It built a table. That table has 4 fields in it. An ID field of type int, a quotes model, or I'm sorry, a quote movie of type nvarchar, and the size is max, meaning it can be as big as we want it to be. Oh, and the ID is automatically set to my identity, like an auto increment. We've got quote text, which is also an nvarchar of size max, and we've got quote author of size max. So we have successfully completed the migration. All right. We have done everything there that we wanted to do. Now, yesterday, when we did this, a couple people had problems. What I mean is, with one person, when they went over, and let me close this and this, and when they went over here and they went to view an SQL Server Object Explorer with one person, they did not have this. They looked under all of these, and they did not have under any of the databases here or here or here, etc. There was nothing that had ASP in it. So there was nothing, they did not have a DB quotes database. All right, with one of the other people, they were getting a migration error. I gave them a possible fix. They put the fix in, but it gave them yet a different error. So with the two of them, I asked them if they would both please go in and make a GitHub repo with their projects on it so I could look at it. So long story short, I stopped right here yesterday, and I'm stopping right here right now. All right. We will pick it up here on Tuesday of next week. Remember, there is no class on Monday for the Martin Luther King observance. So we'll pick this up on Tuesday. So I am going to do this file in a save all. Okay. I can close this now. I can close this. I am going to try to run it one more time to make sure that it still works. And I haven't broken anything. All right. I'm on my home page. I can still go to my privacy page, bounce back and forth. I can still technically register. I'm not going to yet. We will later. And I got a login page. So that's good. I've got all that. So I'm going to close this. I am going to do a file exit right here. And I'm hoping that I got emails from the 2 students in question so I can see if we can fix the problems that they are having. I will talk to you on Tuesday. Have a nice weekend.